Yep.
Honesty hour. The New York Yankees. The Yankees organization is a complete embarrassment right now. Yes, they still have a shot at the playoffs. Yes, they're still a good baseball team, but this front office and staff are doing some just unacceptable things. Absolutely unacceptable. Let's talk about it. Let's start with Anthony Rizzo, who just went on the IL with a concussion. And they dated that concussion back to a collision with Fernando Tatis at first base. That happened 2 months ago. 2 months. This guy has had a concussion for 2 months. Before that, he had 11 homers on the year and was hitting .304 on the season. Since that day, he had 1 homer and was batting .172. Just complete and obvious negligence from the medical staff to let that go undiagnosed for 2 months. I don't care if the guy had a collision where he got hit in the head. That you have a duty and an obligation to check that out as much as you possibly can. I don't care if Anthony Rizzo walks off and says, I'm fine. Of course he's going to say that. He's a gamer. But if a guy gets hit in the head, do your due diligence. And then you start seeing a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, that his numbers have fallen off a cliff and he just doesn't look right. It took you 2 months to diagnose a concussion. We're talking like detrimental to your overall life health here. He was saying it was hard for him to wake up in the mornings. He was feeling hungover when he woke up in the mornings. He was feeling foggy is what he was describing.
And it was like hungover, but not drinking any alcohol the night before.
Yes. That's one thing. Just complete and obvious negligence from the medical staff there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is unacceptable. That can't happen. Speaking of complete negligence, the trade deadline. The trade deadline comes and goes, and their handling of it was completely unacceptable. They weren't buyers. They weren't sellers. They did nothing. Absolutely nothing. I actually would have, I would have been buyers. I think the team is good enough to be a playoff team. And if you can add a bat to that lineup that has really been struggling, I think that changes everything. But I also would have understand, and they're still in reach of a playoff spot. But I understand if you want to say we're in last place in our division, we are going to take this year to sell and to get pieces for the future, sell guys that are out the door, just do something. They did nothing. It's unacceptable. How do you let that happen if you're the front office? George Steinbrenner would have never allowed this. Hal Steinbrenner's in charge now, and Brian Cashman is running the show there as the GM, and nothing's done. And you hear them talk about the team as if it's just like, well, we didn't do enough. You know, it's like, you just hear quotes of we didn't do enough, so we just did. You did nothing. If the team wasn't good enough, look at what the New York Mets did across town. I respect the hell out of the fact that they made a decision.
Yeah,
and they had the guts to tear it down this year, rebuild for the future. Now they're going to be better off for it in the long run than this Yankees team that's just hovering in last place, around last place in a division, and hoping they sneak into a playoff spot. This team ain't a World Series team. What are you doing?
There's just such a weird negative vibe surrounding the New York Yankees right now. Everything you mentioned, we don't need to go into the Domingo Germán thing, but that was also just a dark cloud over the organization. There hasn't felt like there has been a positive ray of hope for this team to be able to come together and turn things around and go on a big winning streak since Aaron Judge came back.
Yeah. And lastly, let's discuss the Giancarlo Stanton situation. I like Giancarlo Stanton a lot. And when I was living out here in LA during the offseason, when I was playing professionally, Giancarlo Stanton was my hitting partner in the offseason for a while. He's a great guy. But in a tie ball game, a ball is hit in the gap, Giancarlo Stanton on second base, a ball in the gap. He gets thrown out at home by half the baseline. It wasn't even close. And you look at him, and he was not running. I understand that Giancarlo Stanton is not the fastest guy in the world, but you know when somebody that is slow is giving max effort. That wasn't max effort.
That wasn't max
it
effort.
was not. It was an unacceptable effort in a tie ball game when you need wins, you need runs you need to get in the playoffs, and that's the effort you're giving. And Boone said post game that he is healthy and there was no injury thing. There's no injury thing that's there. To me, that makes this unacceptable. This is an unacceptable situation. If he's healthy, then that level of effort isn't acceptable. It's just not. Even if you're slow, you know when a guy is giving effort, and that just wasn't. There's a view of him rounding third and then going home, and he's just running what looks to be 50%. He's running like it looks like he had a piano attached to his back.
Well, it was a home run trot. It was a slow home run trot he was giving around third base.
There was just no effort. And the inability for the team's manager to go up there in the meeting and say, that was unacceptable. That was completely unacceptable. It was a horseshit effort, and it is something that we will never stand for here as the New York Yankees, and we will handle this internally. But that didn't happen. None of that is happening. They're not handling anything the right way. Sure, the Domingo Germán situation now, he's gone for the year.
Yeah.
Fine. But this situation, this is what the Yankees need. Have your manager have the guts to stand up in front of the media and say, this is not the New York Yankees way. If you are able to hustle, hustle. If you are not, then you will not be playing. This isn't Aaron Judge, who's coming back from an injury and rushed back from an injury and is probably still dealing with that injury.
Oh, definitely.
This isn't Aaron Judge, who's one of the best hitters on planet Earth. This is Giancarlo Stanton hitting 200 on the year, giving that bullshit effort. It's so frustrating. It's unacceptable. And the New York Yankees whole front office now, from the top down, from the top to the manager, I just think it's an unacceptable way of handling things. Trade deadline, the way they handled it, unacceptable. Anthony Rizzo, the medical staff, the way they handled it, unacceptable. And this handling of Giancarlo Stanton's situation where you just go to the media and say, like, I haven't really seen it yet. You know, he's healthy. Sometimes he just, like, doesn't, if he runs at a certain angle, he, like, pulls up a little bit. And it's just like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, and it's unacceptable. Honesty hour. New York Yankees, be better.